Hello, everybody. I'm very happy to have you all here at the EuroHub, the third hub that is occurring in these last few weeks. First, we had Asia Pacific and later the Americas, and now the EuroHub. And I'm very happy not to have only people from Europe, but from other continents as well. So you can see EuroHub is still a EuroHub, but with participating people from all over the world. And that is a great result. It is very sad, of course, that I can't see you in the face live, since we have a strong tradition in EuroHubs of coming together, drinking beer. Soren, you would be pleased to hear that again from me, and have good discussions, good laughter, and lots of community aspects built in the program. Now, on a Zoom meeting, we can't allow us to hug each other or to do whatever really we do in real life if we have an after meeting conference part, etc. But still, I'm hoping for you that you will have a enjoyable EuroHub meeting, since we have a very special guest who will be introduced by Gargana, one of our board directors, later on in this program. But first, after telling you that the agenda is like you can see on the screen, after my opening remarks and welcoming you at the EuroHub 2021, I will give the floor to Dwight Mahalic, who is our chair, of course. And after Dwight has said some of his opening remarks, I will give the floor to Gagana to introduce our guest speaker, who will talk us into the EU recovery plan, which she is responsible for. After that, and I really want you to think of that already, we have several European countries alongside, and we really want to have an open discussion in a roundtable of institutes' best practices. And the question I will bring to the floor is simply, what did you do last year? What were you confronted with? What kind of new solutions did you develop? What new ideas came up in your IMC? And hopefully a pandemic, a kind of disaster that has happened to the world, will bring forward some new ideas, especially how we deal with our members in our IMCs. It would be great fun to learn from each other. How did you cope with the possibilities that occurred, and how did you cope with the dangers that the pandemic brought forward to every one of us here on this globe? After having said this, I really want to introduce Dwight Mahalic to you all and give Dwight the floor, and maybe Kusama, you can take a bigger screen than the agenda then, so that we really can see lots of people. Yeah, now I see a lot of friends. Jonita, Georgi, Kim, great to see you, Cesara, too many people I know. This is real fun. Dwight, to you to give us some opening remarks as chair of Icmci.
Thanks very much, Jan Willem. It is nice to see everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to open this session and to bring greetings from the board of Icmci. It's my absolute pleasure. And I'm delighted to open the event because we do have a special agenda today. And it's more important than ever for us to learn from each other in these turbulent times. And thanks to you, Jan Willem, for this great program. And thank you to all of the organizers. And especially thank you to the speakers. I'm really looking forward to what we're going to learn today and this opportunity to share insights. 2020 has been I guess 2020 and the time since our last EuroHub. We had our first virtual EuroHub 1 year ago today, and we thought things might be near the end, and no, they weren't. So it's been quite a ride. And it's also been a very busy time at Icmci, working with all of the institutes to build, to collaborate, and to work together. This challenge has also brought us opportunities, and I really want us to be focusing on the silver lining in what has happened and help it to shape our thinking as we move forward. And in spite of, or probably because of the travel restrictions that we've had at ICMCI, we've pushed ahead with the virtualization of our sessions. And this has created a lot of new opportunities for networking and collaboration at the consultant level around the world. And that hasn't been possible before. That has not been possible before. Personally, I've been able to attend more workshops and more events around the world than I ever could have possibly imagined in 2019. And that door has been open for management consultants in different parts of the world to be able to reach out to each other and share experiences with each other in ways that had not been possible before. As I prepared the discussion and these notes for our hub meetings, I thought back to our last face-to-face annual meeting, which was in Nassau in 2019. And there I remember facilitating a discussion around the state of disruption of management consulting. And we realized then that there were some significant changes underway. But that pandemic that hit us shortly after that meeting has really emphasized the way in which our client organizations can be subject to disruption in a very fast and very deep way. And as a result of that, we've seen how quickly our client organizations can pivot, but also how quickly we as a management consulting profession can change. So COVID has accelerated the change, the pace of change of work in so many different ways. But it's also accelerated the way in which client organizations are thinking about how and when they use professional services, including professional consulting services. And there's 4 drivers I want to quickly point out to you because I think they help set a scene for where we're going as a profession. The first is that clients are tending to be thinking less about the big ticket projects and more about how can they implement change in bite-sized pieces. And in doing that, how can they find the person with the expertise that they need to help them solve that problem, and to also walk with them the last mile, to have that willingness to implement the solutions in a sustainable way with them. So that is a change, but it's a good change, and it's a change that's good for consulting. It's good for our industry overall, and I think it's also good for institutes because it creates the institutes as front and center as a place for consultants to collaborate together. The second is the access to knowledge is greater than it's ever been before. Augmented intelligence is here to stay. These devices that we all carry with us are all encompassing. And I don't know about you, but in my case, most of my knowledge is stored on that phone. So that is really good for the industry because it does give us all access to this knowledge, but it does create difficulties for our institutes because the institutes were seen as that center of the body of knowledge for the profession. And particularly for new entrants into the industry of consulting, that's not seen as the case. So we really do need to think about how do we position ourselves more front and center in the minds of those who are just about to become what they would call consultants. The third one is related, and it's the access to networking. Individuals can reach out and connect with each other more easily than ever before, more broadly than ever before. Borders have absolutely fallen away in terms of social networking. So that's good for the industry. It's great for individuals who are management consultants, but again, it puts pressure on institutes to really reinforce their value proposition about how do they provide the value that new entrants into the consulting industry are looking for. And the fourth one, and this probably is the most complicated for us as a profession, is the perceived availability of talent versus the professional management consultant as the trusted advisor. I call this the Uberization of consulting. More and more on the internet, you can go online to find someone who has that specialized expertise that you feel that you might need as a client organization. And they will call themselves consultants, but they're not really professional management consultants as we would define it. They're highly specialized labor to solve that particular problem. So the value add that we have here as a profession is really that diagnostic capability, the experience, the ability to get to root cause to help client organizations be more successful than before. And we need to continue to focus in on that differentiation between the part-time expertise and the management consultants. So there are increasing individuals entering the industry of consulting, but because of all of these issues that I've given to you, it is harder and harder to encourage those people to join our institutes, and that's been a focus for us at ICMCI over the past period of time, quite a while now, and we're continuing to work with institutes through initiatives such as our 2020 Onwards Task Force, in which most of you participated to help us solve these problems and to focus and ensure that we're focused on exactly the right areas for the new generation of management consultants. So the thinking that's currently out there about the strength of the institutes and whether they're important or not, I think is completely counterproductive. In times like these, with this increasing pace of change, with the increasing threats of disruption from multiple sources, institutes do have a critical role to play. This ability to network, to bring people together, to share experiences, to share ideas, to improve on best practices, to keep abreast of the latest changes. These all require a mechanism, such as the Institute, to bring consultants together. So our challenge is to demonstrate to new entrants and existing members that we can create this value for them. And how we do that will require some out of the box thinking. And I'm always excited at events like this when our best thinkers come together and share information so we can really continue to think together how we can improve our reach as consultants and as institutes and in whichever other ways that we can possibly imagine. Just before I close, I want to invite you all to our annual meeting, and please do make a note now to set time aside in your calendar. We are having a virtual annual meeting again this year on October 14th. We'll have 2 sessions as we did last year. We'll have a 7 o'clock UTC session and a 1400 UTC session. So we really want to make these sessions available to all of you. As last year, we'll send out videos and documents well in advance so you can prepare yourselves. And in these sessions, it's an opportunity for discussion and for us to answer questions. What's new this year, and I'm really excited about this, is between the 2 sessions, we're going to set up a lineup of guest speakers who can talk on topics of interest. So we'll have a mini virtual conference between the 2 sessions. So whichever time zone you're in, you can stay on after the annual meeting call or join before for the speakers that are of interest to you. So that's enough for me, Jan-Willem. Thank you very much. Welcome again. I'm just really excited to get this agenda underway. So back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dwight, for your inspiring words. And if we have the round table for all of our member institutes, your idea of coming up with bright new ideas is well heard. And hopefully there will be several new ideas that can pop up from somebody's mind, and just bring it to the floor, because we can learn from each other. And the element in ICMCI which I like best, and during EuroHubs, learning from each other, is also a very interesting and challenging topic. Because I know for sure that somebody else in a different country can come up with bright new ideas which I never have thought of before. And that's amazing. And Dwight, the interesting part of another meeting in October is that we don't have jet lags at that time. That's convenient. But to be very honest with you all, I would prefer a jet lag in 2022 and then seeing you all in real life. That brings me to Gergana, which I saw just on you. Now she's not on my screen anymore here. Gergana, probably if you are going to talk, you can introduce our fantastic speaker who will bring us up to speed about the EU recovery plan. Gergana, to you, my dear colleague. You see me seeing where she is now. Gergana, can you hear me?
We actually lost Gergana. She's reconnecting. So if we just give her a few minutes, I'll try and reach her on
Okay.
WhatsApp. Just one
Um,
second.
I really want her to introduce her fellow country lady, because they know each other very well, and I would do harm to our speaker if I would introduce her now and say, well, go on with your speech. But I do have other questions then. If we are waiting for that, I really wanted to do that later on. I see Lydia and I see Konstantinos on my screen. And as I told you before, the two other hubs were already in place. So if I look at Asia Pacific, maybe Lydia, I know I'm going to ask you out of the blue to say a few words about what happened at the Asia Pacific hub. So bring us up to speed about what happened at the Asia Pacific. Could you do that for us?
Sure. Just a few words, not to take too much time. I think we had a high level of participation from 20 IMCs around the world, which we were absolutely delighted. And at the end of it, we also run a survey to have together feedback. And the survey was analyzed immediately the next day. And it turns out to be very positive. A lot of people felt that they learned a lot, partly because the theme for the Asia Hub Pacific meeting was focused on technology, harnessing technology, the future of consulting. As you know, the technology was basically the main driver in 2020 and 2021. Everything accelerated like 5 years to 7 years ahead of time, honestly, because it was honestly by force in a sense, but it came very naturally. So the 4 topics that we focused was technology, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, as well as cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, technology, and the fourth one was blockchain. All right, blockchain. And 3 of the speakers, we had 2 professors, who one of them have won a Wall of Fame award from Singapore, and one professor specialized in artificial intelligence, and a German who reside in Singapore, who is an active member of IMC, speaking about blockchain, and another member of ours talking about cybersecurity. So you can see in IMC Singapore, we try to attract as many disciplines as possible to provide diversity. At the same time, we believe in inclusion. So we were actually very delighted that we had so many IMC from all over Europe, and also from USA. Konstantinos was with us. Thank you, Konstantinos. And Kim and all that were with us. So honestly, we had, and Robert too, and of course, Rima and all that. And honestly, it was a very, and of course, from Australia, New Zealand, we had from Korea, from Japan, Joe was there too, So, and of course, China. So we really had a very—
A lot of participants.
Yes, all from 20 IMC around the world. So the North America was represented by Konstantinos, and Europe, and except that I don't think we had anyone from Africa. Also from Latin America, we didn't have any, maybe because of different time zone. Like poor Dwight, it was like 2 a.m. for him in the morning.
From Canada can suffer.
2 a.m. He was actually very strong and very, very alert,
But no jet lag, Jan Willem.
Yeah, we
Okay.
had to choose that time partly because we have to think of New Zealand and Australia, because New Zealand is 5 hours behind Singapore. So for them, ending is like midnight. And we have to think of people in Europe as well. So we had a very good representation from Europe. Yeah,
Okay.
this is the essence of it.
Thank you so much. So it looks like you had a wonderful conference then, and maybe it's worthwhile for others who didn't participate. We have recordings, and if
Yes,
you look at the
right.
website, you can see the recordings of all that happened. If you are interested in what happened at Asia Pacific Hub. Thank you so much, Lydia, as the chair of Asia Pacific Hub.
Always
And
a pleasure.
Konstantinos, I know you are from Greece, but you're also a member of the US of America IMC. You participated in the Americas Hub. Can you give us some details about what happened at the hub that took place a few days ago?
Sure.
Thank you so much, Konstantinos.
It'll be a pleasure. I'll try to be brief. I'm extending, our best regards and greetings from IMC USA. Now, our Americas Hub was a very constructive meeting, and we had the participants from the ICMCI board, as well as participating IMCs, Canada, the US, the Caribbean, and Brazil as well. And last but not least, CMCGI as well. Two things that we focused on. One had to do with growing in the Americas, trying to find new ways out of the box, even out of the building, so to speak, to create some new axes for growth. So there was a lot of conversation, a lot of ideas on the table, and most probably in the near future we'll start, implementing some preferable actions for positive growth ahead. That was the first one. The second one that came up from the conversation that I can keep is the fact that we acknowledged that our executive director teams of our associations should be given more, should be empowered even more in terms of implementing our strategy.
That is a very interesting idea, wouldn't you say, Johanna?
There was a realization that because most of us, are basically consultants, and we're called upon, when we're serving on our institute's boards, we wear two hats at the same time, the consultant and the implementer, and try to intervene a lot of times during implementation and execution. Well, that's probably not a good thing. Our teams, our association teams, I should give them cheers, all of them throughout the IMCs. I think they're doing a great job, and they should be empowered even more. So these were the two basic things that I came up. Very constructive meeting. Thank you
so much. That is a real pleasure, Konstantinos, to have you here in this EuroHub. And it's a kind of interesting idea, the position and role of executive directors of IMCs, especially for the bigger IMCs, where they have sometimes a full professional and a full professional secretariat. It's interesting to see how it can help us as ICMCI to take us a little bit forward in executing and implementing strategies. That will be on topic for the next upcoming months, probably. I see, thank you so much. I see that Gergana still has a problem in trying to get on board. Gergana, I will take over. So let me introduce to you all Liana Tsanova, and I hope I pronounce your name very well now.
Very well.
Which is a very interesting lady, because she was just 2 weeks ago appointed as the Deputy Director General of the Directorate General for the Budget by the European Committee. And so she is a high-ranking lady and knows all about politics and economy in Europe. And well, she is from Bulgaria, and she will participate in our meeting. And I really want you to give the floor to you to deliver your message to us. And then after that, Gergana, and hopefully with audio, can ask you still some questions because you had some context beforehand already. And of course, the Gergana will facilitate a discussion with you. And I hope I was pronouncing your name very well. Liana, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Jan Willem. Can you hear me well?
Perfect.
Very good. Well, I'm really thrilled to be here today in this, I would say, a very, very inspiring company. I mean, my career started many, many years ago with Deloitte & Touche. I was a consultant myself. And I would think of these years as maybe my happiest professional years because I've learned so much back then as an auditor. I started actually first in financial consulting in Washington, DC, and then I continued in Bulgarian office, where I did audit of all kinds of companies and banks, and I've learned so much through every assignment. So I really, really appreciate the experience with Deloitte. But since then, maybe I'll just say a few words about my professional experience. I spent 12 years with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development in London, where I held a number of positions, but my primary focus was in infrastructure sector, where I structured a number of debt and equity transactions across Central and Eastern Europe in the field of infrastructure. And even back then, we were employing what is now super fashionable, the ESG standards for the development banks like the World Bank, EBRD, and others. This is at the heart of the modus operandi. So at that time, we were trying really hard to convince our clients why it is important when you design your projects to actually take into account those standards. Then I had a brief experience in two caretaker governments in Bulgaria in 2013, 2014, when I served as Deputy Prime Minister in charge of managing the EU structural and cohesion funds. This is the package of funding that, let's say, less developed member states of the European Union get to help them converge with more developed countries. And these are the important funding which they use to fund important investments in all fields of economy, mostly in the form of grants. And in Bulgaria, for example, just to explain, that was 80% of public spending was funded with those grants. So these are very, very important funds for our economy and still are. And in 2015, 2016, I actually joined the European Investment Bank as Deputy Managing Director of the European Fund for Strategic Investments, which was the policy response at that time to the financial and economic crisis that started 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago. And then it was innovative, very innovative, big scale instruments at that time because we used 26 billion from the European budget as a risk sharing instrument. At that time, we assessed that we saw actually a pan-European market failure where we have historic low interest rates, ample liquidity on the markets, but still the funding was not reaching the real economy, which was hindering obviously the European recovery and growth prospects and competitiveness. So we used these budgetary funds to mitigate and share the risk with private investors mostly to help them invest the funding into the real economy. So we had to actually mobilize, that was our political target for 5 years, 500 billion euros of investments in important sectors. And I think that was by itself revolutionary at the time because we changed the paradigm of how public support should be used for much bigger impact than just the spending as we know it. So this instrument ended its term in 2020 in December, and we used actually the last year to support the European, I wouldn't say really recovery, but the response to the COVID crisis. I mean, we funded BioNTech with 100 million of risk capital when they were developing the famous vaccine that I guess many of us already got, and we are proud of so many other investments that we supported throughout those 5 years. And as part of the last year with the European Fund for Strategic Investments, we were also, I wouldn't say participated, but we provided input in shaping the European response to COVID crisis, which I'm going to talk to you about right now. I don't know whether Gergana is back in business or she's still struggling with the.
I don't know whether you hear me.
Ah, yay! Very
Yeah,
Okay.
with
Yes, we
audio.
can. Good.
I don't know whether
Okay.
my introduction, but basically.
Yeah, it was a great introduction. I wouldn't have been able to do that better than you, Iliana. And maybe if you could tell us more about the vision of the new generation EU recovery plan and what instruments will be deployed. Maybe a bit more about it's so complex, complicated, but to the extent possible, if you could shed a light on that.
Okay, well, the EU response to the COVID crisis is called Next Generation EU. And by itself, it's also, I would think, revolutionary in so many ways. For those of you that know how the EU works, maybe will appreciate that, but I'll just explain what it means. So the heart of that program is to support the recovery through green and digital transitions and resilience. So the total amount of money that will be invested in the European economy in the next 2.5 years, because the period for committing all this funding is by the end of 2023, is 750 billion euros. This is on top of the regular EU 7-year budget of over 1 trillion euros. So we have a package of almost 2 trillion euro for the next 7-year period, which by itself is unprecedented in so many ways. So the funding of 750 billion that will flow into the European economies will consist of both grants and loans to member states. The division is almost 50-50 with the slight prevalence of the loan component, which was the requirement of the frugal countries. This is the Northern European countries that are, including, I guess, Jans Willem country from Netherlands, Denmark, and the others. And I think it's actually a good solution because there is something about loans that I like, given my banker's experience from the past. And I've seen how strings attached and also conditionalities, which are part of the loans, could actually trigger sustainability in the long term with the borrowers. But that's being said. So each member state will have to prepare the so-called National Recovery and Resilience Plan, which by itself is an instrument not only for investments, but also for reforms. Because one of the issues that kept European competitiveness, I think, is the lack of willingness, political willingness to push for certain reforms at some of the member states level. And I think that's a great instrument because each country will have to include in these national recovery and resilience plans a set of reforms that they need to fulfill, a set of key performance indicators and other goals that need to be achieved, and also a second pillar, which are the investments that have to support to a large extent those reforms. And each disbursement under those national recovery and resilience plans that the Commission will make will be conditional on fulfilling those reforms, or let's say monitoring progress with the fulfillment of those reforms. So unless the countries move ahead with the reforms, they will not be able to fully benefit from the plans. And I think that's a great innovation because indeed we need to push with reforms, being on the labor market or on the public procurement field, on the rule of law. It varies from country to country. The European Commission prescribes every year through the European semester a set of reforms that needs to be carried out so that the country could actually move forward with their economic development. Being in the field of education, healthcare, as I said, judicial reforms, labor reforms, tax reforms. It varies from a country to country. So many countries, actually 23 countries, have already submitted their national recovery and resilience plans to the European Commission. What follows now is approval of those national recovery and resilience plans by the European Commission, and then by the Council of European Union, which is basically a body which is consists of the heads of the member states that should also give their go-ahead of each national recovery and resilience plan. So we are moving ahead very fast. The plans are very, very different from a country to country, based on their macroeconomic situation or their challenges. I think one of the best plans is the Greek one that I've seen. The French one is also very interesting. I haven't really looked at all of them yet. We expect still 4 member states to provide their plans, but I think more or less we are on track. And what is interesting is that the European Union will fund those plans through the capital markets by issuing a common European debt on the capital markets. And I think this by itself is unique because from strategic and geopolitical point of view, it will have a massive impact of how we position Europe and Euro on the global markets by offering those bonds. And I don't know whether you have followed what happened during actually last year. Part of the COVID response measures, the crisis response measures, was the program SURE, which was supposed to preserve short-term jobs at the EU. So the EU issued 100 billion of debt in various tranches with various also maturities. And those money have been provided to the member states in the form of loans so that they can support the measures they take to preserve employment. And it has been a huge success in terms of market demand for safe European assets. So we hope that in the next years, we will continue this success and be able to ensure that the member states get the funding at the best possible rates. Like if you look at Italy, for example, if they go on the market to borrow the funding to support their economy, they would pay way more than if they do it via the European Commission that has AAA rating and could access the markets at way more favorable rates that will be transferred to Italy. So Italy and other member states that are keen to take the loans will benefit enormously from just that this saving. So the grants will be repaid through the so-called own resources. That's another innovation. All the 27 member states ratified that regulation, which will allow the EU to collect various taxes, like digital levy, for example, or the cross-border carbon adjustments. There are a few that are, or tax on financial transactions. It's to be determined. That will be collected at the budget, and the budget will then repay the borrowing from the capital markets for the grant component. The loans obviously will be repaid by the member states themselves for those that are keen to take the loans. Not all of them, not all member states want to take the loan. Most would like to stay within the grant components and use other fiscal and tax measures to support their economy. So I think another aspect before I stop is to, when I mentioned that this recovery plan will support the EU and economy through green and digital investments, I actually mean that because 37% minimum of those plans should aim at investments that supports the Green Deal, which is Europe next, I think Europe's growth strategy for the years to come. And minimum 20% shall support investments in digital. So digitizing not only the administration, but also the businesses and the healthcare and education, because what we've seen last year is that the companies that deployed digital solutions were way more successful in overcoming the crisis and surviving the crisis than those that didn't. And I think, I don't know, I think it was Winston Churchill that said it, you know, never miss a good crisis, which is also, I think, the European case now, to really take advantage of that and really boost the sustainable recovery through green investments and digital investments for the next couple of years. So I'll stop here, and you know, I welcome all questions. And if you actually want to guide me what information you want to hear, please feel free to interrupt me anytime, because I don't like to have a monologue. I would much more enjoy to have a dialogue with you all. So.
Well, if I could continue, if you hear me, Ileana. I remember when you were still at the beginning of the European Fund for Strategic Investments, you have said that the EU is moving in the right direction to expand innovation finance, something which you're talking about now. But despite this positive trend, you have said that there were 3 Fs. I don't know whether you remember you saying that. This was funding, fragmentation, and frame of mind as the main challenges for the EU to become a global innovation hub. So is the new EU budget set to overcome these challenges? And what lessons learned from your unique experience with the European Fund for Strategic Investment will help you drive implementation now?
Well, yes, I mean, indeed, I wrote this article for the World Economic Forum, I think back in 2019 at the beginning, about
18.
Oh my goodness, wow. About EU critical innovation gaps. And indeed, at that time, I wrote that article actually with a colleague of mine who is the Deputy CEO of the European Innovation Fund. This is the institution that provides, that is such an important player in the innovation finance in Europe. Basically, they're the biggest provider of catalytic finance for venture capital funds to support innovation in Europe. And at that time, we really analyzed what really holds Europe behind on that front. And then we indeed said that it is the 3 Fs. One is the funding, where you have lack of funding for patient capital, but also for scaling up those companies that are successful. And what we see is that what we saw at that time, that Europe was such a great champion in creating startups, but then also a great champion of losing them to the US and other markets, where you had, and this is what I call frame of mind, where you had corporates and public sector that are way more willing to experiment with new technologies and work with those startups and buy their products. In Europe, what you see is that most of the corporates are still going for established logos, and they're very risk averse. And also public procurement policies that we see in most of the member states also favor more established players than in the US. And the last F, which is fragmentation, is something that I don't know whether it's a funding issue. I think it's rather it's a result. The fragmentation is the factor, is that, you know, apart from different languages, obviously we are not United States of Europe. We are still a union of 27 different member states that have their own languages and different taxes, different regulations. Even if you have a EU, let's say, approving a regulation, it's very often transposed in a very different way among the member states. So if you're a startup or technology company, you have to hire people that are experienced in the French market, in the German markets, if you want to really grow cross-border. And I think that the situation is improving in terms of funding and in terms of financing. And it's also, you have like two reasons for that. One reason for success, if you look at the US, is a timing issue. You need basically all the players of the innovation ecosystem to have sufficient time to grow, because it is a system of corporates, of people that are successful entrepreneurs that manage to create companies, develop them, then exit, get the funding, they establish the venture capitals, they invest in smaller companies, but they not only invest, but they help them grow and develop their business. They help them network, become more efficient. And it's something that Europe is now starting to have, because now we are at the stage where we have our successful entrepreneurs that are moving back to Europe and creating those VC funds. And You have also the universities, which is absolutely key to provide the talent and to work with the corporates on the innovation. So we are getting there, and I'm actually quite optimistic. And on the other side, you have the regulatory part, where I think Europe has done, in certain aspects very well to create a single market for the services, because we have the single market for the goods, which is good. But when we talk about services, that's a different story. And I think we need to really work on that front to create this purely completely digital single market, so that all these services could flow borderless among the member states. Whether the EU budget is set to overcome these challenges, I think the funding is certainly available for those. I mean, just the fact that now under Next Generation EU, we have a target for green and digital by itself speaks for itself that, that indeed EU could become, I think it's a very bold statement, as a matter of fact, for EU to become a global leader in green technologies, which, by the way, Europe already is. I mean, if you look at the latest report by the European Investment Bank, it's called the Investment Report from 2020-2021. Actually, EU is already registering 50% more patents on green technologies than US, Japan, and China. I think the challenge is now for us to remain on the front of that race and not fall behind, because I think what we've seen so far with the huge digital companies is that we have this paradox of the first movers are the winners that takes it all. And I think now for us, it's important to really implement those investments in a way to preserve the European leadership in green technologies. I think that's one. And there are many instruments like the European Innovation Council, the InvestEU, which is a successor of EFSI, which will continue to support the innovative companies to grow and to get the funding they need to grow and stay in Europe, because I think this is something that we need to ensure. Of course, we have the other issue, how to preserve talent and attract talent and keep talent in Europe, which is something we need to certainly tackle. But I think Europe is a unique place to live and work in terms of opportunities and quality of life. So with the smart policies, this shouldn't really be that difficult to achieve. In terms of how EFSI, my previous experience helped me to drive this implementation now. Well, I think it's really a combination of experience, not only the one that I did with the last assignment I had, but also the fact that I worked in a member state as a senior government official. So I know the constraints many countries face when it comes to strategic planning and implementation. I mean, even if we talk about innovation, Europe is not all member states are at the same place. You have countries that are great innovators, like Germany, for example, or Sweden, or many others, which they have a strong industrial footprint that really allows them to be way more developed. They have very well functioning national systems to support innovation. And you have other countries, unfortunately, like Bulgaria and others on the southern front, that are spending less than 1% from their GDP on innovation. They don't really have universities that could compete with others. So of course you can't expect much. But I think now the importance is that through these plans and all the measures that we have available, we manage to reduce this digital divergence in Europe and converge more also on the innovation and digital front. And I think this is key. Whether I will succeed, to be honest, I mean, there are many directorates responsible in the Commission for the implementation of Next Generation EU. My role will be Chief Risk Officer, so I need to ensure sound risk governance framework and ensure that Europe gets the funding at the best possible rates, that we preserve the reputational solidity of the Union going forward, and we have the liquidity when needed to support those investments in implementing their projects. But I said, capacity constraints are there, so the success will very much depend on the quality of the projects we support and how quickly we manage to move ahead with the implementation of this instrument.
Would you mind if we challenge you a bit and ask you to change your hat and imagine the opportunities through the perspective of the business? What would you do?
I mean, the business, the consulting business, or the private sector business, or what?
Say private sector business, say SME.
Okay, well, the SMEs, I mean, yeah, depending on whether you're a small and medium enterprise or you're a big corporate, obviously there are different opportunities, but I think different challenges as well. But I think one thing is clear now with the European Green Deal, with the whole push, regulatory even if you wish, but also the demand from investors, the demand from citizens for more sustainable investments, from more, with the care of to the environment, to the workers, to the society, better governance. I think more or less the companies should always take this into account when they plan their strategies for the future, because people are not willing anymore to tolerate the company that is doing business and making profits and at the same time polluting the environment. We are not willing anymore to tolerate governments that are reluctant to address the problems with clean air, for example, in the cities. We all want to live in a way which is healthy and sustainable for us and for our children. And I think when you, as an SME, and what you could do to benefit from that, I think there is plenty of funding available. I think you just need to have the vision and creativity, how you could remain competitive and comply with those sustainability requirements going forward, because I think this is what the investors and the clients will require going forward, when they're even your customers as such. And I think for European SMEs, it's very important to deploy more digital technologies, because if you look at the different client sectors, this is one of the issues that the SMEs are lacking most, especially the small family businesses. For them, the idea of digital technologies and how they can increase their sales using digital technologies, to demystify for them what digital actually means. So I think there is a huge role to be played by the governments or the associations of SMEs to help those companies understand the opportunities for them by deploying and investing in those technologies. I think that's maybe one of the points where they could really benefit now most of what we have to offer.
Do not forget the role which consultants can play in that journey. And certainly the EU financial framework opens many new avenues for management consultants to pursue. And for a profession that drives social and economic success, I feel it also acts as a call for our professional responsibility. So where do you see the biggest contribution management consultants could make in that process?
I mean, when we started with the European Fund for Strategic Investments, we had 3 pillars. The second pillar was so-called the European Investment Advisory Hub, because we saw at the time when we did the market test, what would be the demand at the beginning of this, when the whole instrument was structured. And we asked the member states to provide us projects that they wanted us to support, typical projects, and they provided projects amounting to 1 trillion and above. And when we looked at those projects, we realized that actually 90% of those projects, even more, were not bankable because they're not structured properly, the solutions were not adequate, and then we realized that capacity constraints are actually hindering the deal flow. So we established this advisory hub, which had a budget of 20 million from the European Commission, to help public and private sector companies to design projects that are fit and bankable to attract financing, not only from us, but also from other investors. And this problem hasn't disappeared, to be honest. I mean, it's still there. So on one hand, it's the countries and the national and the local governments that need to think about green cities, resilient cities, projects, and they have the capacity constraints to see the big picture, something that Dwight, I think, mentioned at the beginning. And I think this is where the management consultant could really help a lot, but also supporting the strategic planning and project preparation for individual projects, taking into account, the green and sustainability requirements in place, which still, I think that, I don't know about the private sector. I think private sector, depend on the private sector, but many local governments or locally owned companies or state-owned companies are, I must say, struggling with to understand. For them, very often, it represents like a necessary financial burden to do. And I think that there is no compromise with that. So the management consultants has a huge role to play to address the capacity constraints, but also support those clients to really plan in a sustainable fashion.
And maybe my last question is maybe a bit more in the soft skills area. When announcing the decision about your appointment, DC revealed that besides having 20 years of outstanding experience in international development and investment banking and a strong management experience, you also possess excellent negotiation skills. I mean, I was surprised to hear that justification. And to be honest, based on personal experience of having you as a client, I tend to agree. We had our moments. But could you please share with us what skills will be needed to succeed in a post-coronavirus business world, whether consultant or just in business?
Wow, I wish I knew actually.
Obviously, you need negotiation skills. That's clear.
That has always been necessity, even pre-coronavirus time, right? I think what is important now is to really harness all the, I mean, access to knowledge, access to networking is so easy. I mean, Dwight again mentioned this at his opening statement. I think it is actually the case. And what is important is to be able to think outside the box and to think with care for the next generation when you design your solutions, and to really reach out, because networking has never been easier. And I actually benefit from that a lot. And I see the amount of people that are now approaching me as well with questions or ideas to cooperation, or how we can solve a problem together and how we can join forces to do it. So I think this is key. And also, I think it's important to use media and social media to share our success stories, because very often we tend to share only the bad stories, but we are very, I would say very, not very keen to share the success stories. I think that's very important, because when I look at my experience with EFSI and how certain countries address certain issues and others struggled, I saw our role as somebody who could help share this good experience and help the others that are underperforming to do better. And I'm not saying that you should necessarily copy and paste the same solution, but just use your creativity to find the right solution and talk to the people that know the solution and could help you. I think that's maybe one of the advice I would give. I mean, just take advantage of everything that we have now that we didn't have 15, 20 years ago, I'd say.
Okay, Juliana, thanks a million. You have a massive job to do. I wish you, and we wish you all the success, and maybe Jan William will take it from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Gagana, and Iliana, thank you so much. Maybe do you have still opportunity for maybe 2 or 3 questions from the rest of the group? Yeah. So I'm going to invite anyone who is willing and able to ask Iliana some questions. As you noticed, she gives answers to all questions that are raised, and she's not a politician in that kind that she is already spoiled by EU politics and not telling straightforward what she thinks. She's telling us what she thinks. So I give the floor to and the opportunity some people at our meeting. Sorin, I see Sorin, yeah? Andrea, Sorin, first for you.
Thank you very much, Jan Willem. Thank you very much, Iliana and Gergana, for this wonderful presentation. My name is Sorin Caian. I'm coming from a country which is neighboring Bulgaria. It's Romania. We have a lot of similar problems, and I have, as Jan Willem said, I'm willing to ask questions. I'm not sure that I'm able to ask questions. Let's see if it works or not. Aren't you afraid, I'm talking you, not you as a person, you in general as the Commission, that the recovery plan is going to increase the gap between the development stage of various economies within the EU? because it seems like everybody's going to build something, and I know very well that the propositions in the plans are totally different, which may go in this direction.
Well, you know what, I mean, that's certainly not the objective to start with. The objective of this instrument is to support all the member states recover stronger from this crisis. But, you know, the English, they say it, you know, you could bring the horse to the water, but you cut to the river, but you can't make it drink, right? At the end of the day, it is in the hand of the national governments to take responsibility of the plans they put forward. And these plans, they have to be consulted with the business associations, with the unions, with the academia, you know, name it, all the stakeholders in each member state, and to get the widest possible approval of those plans. So in that sense, if this task has been done properly, then we should not really see a divergence, you know, we have to see a convergence. But we should not forget about the reforms, because unless you implement those reforms, and I can give you a number of specific examples, but we don't have time. It doesn't matter how much money you invest in a broken economy, right? Because the impact will always be marginal. And this is what we've seen, I would say, with my country to start with, because we have been one of the strongest beneficiaries of the structural and cohesion funds, but we did a very small step in the last 15 years to reach out to the average European national income, while Romania did way better. For all kinds of, well, I mean, if you look, not to mention Poland, not to mention the Baltic countries that are now even seeing reduction of their cohesion envelopes, because they are advancing nicely towards where they should be. So I think it's in our own hands, to be honest. And for me, it is absolutely key that we ensure that we support the right projects, you know, the smart project that will have an impact. I think that's the biggest challenge, but it is a joint effort with the member states, not only the European Commission. I mean, it's a political union, that we know that. We have put a framework, which I think is adequate, but at the end of the day, it is really the implementation that will show whether we will end up really stronger or we will end up with a huge amount of debt and behind where we want it to be.
Okay. Ileana, before I give the floor to Andrea, small question from my point of view. Since Sorin asked about the different countries, etc., you told us in the beginning of your speech that the national recovery plans are reviewed by European Committee, etc. And then in a small sentence you said, and for instance, Greece and France came up already with very interesting plans. But it makes me very curious. Why? Why is it interesting what Greece and France already did, and what can we learn from it?
Well, for Greece, I think their plan, first of all, is very ambitious. And it's, I actually like very much the approach of the government, the way they put this thing together, the way they thought it through, the way they look at the numbers before they design the structure. I like the fact that they have taken into account the private sector. So with a large amount of the funding under the national recovery, their plan, they will implement it through a number of public-private partnerships. And I think this is absolutely key to bring the private sector in, to support the private sector, because let's be honest, they're the biggest owner, you know, they're the biggest employer, they're driving the growth more or less. And the fact that they have thought it through how to also mobilize additional funding from the private sector alongside the European funding, for me, it's a very smart move. They also signed a memorandum with the European Investment Bank to help them identify for a certain amount of the money of the plan projects with the highest value added that are really focusing on innovation. And you know, this is something that requires a specific skill set. You don't expect the governments to be experts in innovation or on investments. That's not necessarily their role. But then you use the organizations that know, and they can help you to achieve your strategic goals. So that is why I like the Greek approach very much. The French approach I like because what they did is at the beginning, they were the first one to prepare their plan. And they looked at the numbers and they said, okay, we don't really need to encourage spending because the savings have grown immensely during the COVID. But where we need to put our efforts is promoting investments, because then the impact will be multiplicator for the economy will be way higher than if we use the other approach. So they put a package together. 40 million will come from the EU funds, but the remaining 60 million will come from various measures from the French government in the form of tax stimulus and other fiscal stimulus, again, for the private sector to invest where they should invest, hydrogen. And they basically set the sectors where they see France developing forward and where they see the France competitive advantage, let's say, vis-a-vis the others. So these are the things that I like to see more, because you see that they have actually done their homework. And I must say, I haven't seen all the plans yet, so I may be missing something really splendid from other member states, but yeah, I'm sure there are more.
It's kind of revealing, thank you. And then I learn how you look at those national recovery plans. Andrea, you showed hands already to ask questions. Andrea Gensel. Are you on board? No, not. Konstantinos is asking you a question, Iliana. What funding mix for projects is a key success factor in the chat? EU funds 50%, loans 30, equity 20, or other mixes? Question from Konstantinos.
Yeah. I don't think I have the answer to this question, because I think it's still very, very specific. I mean, certainly equity would matter a lot, because I think what we have seen during the last year is that what countries offered in terms of fiscal support was either direct subsidy or certain schemes to preserve employment, or loans to keep liquidity flowing. But I think that at the end of the day, it very much depends on how we get out of this crisis, because we're still in there. We don't know what will happen to the virus, whether we will have all kinds of other variants in September. We need to be very careful how fast we withdraw the support from the union and the member states, because we don't want to actually see an avalanche of bankruptcies because we have done this too abruptly. So also the withdrawal of this support matters a lot. But I think equity certainly matters, because we will see companies that are very leveraged and they need some equity to strengthen their balance sheet and keep on growing, rather than just getting more and more loans. So that's certainly something that we have identified for EU as a whole, that we need to have an equity instrument. But then what's the right product mix? I think it very much depends on the needs and on the specific situation of the economy.
Okay, thank you, Iliana. We're coming to an end of this part of our program. And Iliana, I really like to thank you. One of the disadvantages of the digital transformation era we are in now is that I'm not able to give you a hug, give you some flowers and a bottle of rakia together for your shops.
I will give you a bottle of rakia. You should give me tulips or something. I don't know.
I would have done that. Of course, I'm Dutch. I would have done that. I would have brought them with me. But consider it done in a digital way like this. So, Gergana, thank you for connecting us to Iliana. She did a great and wonderful work for us. So we will applaud her. Thank you so much. You can hear me applaud and see you all applauding over there.
Successful meeting for the rest of the time you will spend together, and thank you for inviting me. So nice.
It was a great pleasure to have you in our EuroHub. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you. Okay, everybody, we restart the EuroHub meeting here. And before I'm going to do the round table for the Institute's best practices, I really want to open up to give the floor to some of the board directors. Maybe they can give some actualities to us so that we learn from them what is going on, and maybe we can rethink and think about what is going to happen at our meeting on October 14th. And I know somebody like Robert, for instance, has to leave in half an hour time. Robert, is there any actuality you want to share with us?
Always.
Always.
Thank you, Jan Willem. There's always something to report for those of you who didn't have a chance to join the National Consultant Day. It's a good chance to remind you of the National Consulting report we published, the COVID version, and we have an estimated increase of the global consulting market in the report of plus 5%, and for Europe it is better than the global average. It is plus 7.5%. So it's that's for 2021. Half of 2021 is already over. So that increase will happen in the next 6 months if that what our IMCs predicted is actually going to be in reality. But I think it's quite realistic. And for those who are interested in more details, we published the whole report on our homepage, and it was sent out in the newsletter. And so please have a look on our homepage. I don't know if Nick is still here. He is. Maybe he has time if there are people interested in, because he's working on the new competency framework, and it's a fantastic work he's doing with his in his committee, guided by Nick, because I think it's so important that our competencies are actual and up to date for the upcoming challenges the future will bring to us, and this competency framework is really addressing the new competencies and skills that are needed by management consultants. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it in detail, but I wanted to mention it, and if there are some requests, I'm sure Nick would be happy.
Nick, give some remarks, what Robert is telling us. You did already on the International Consultants Day, but there are others who weren't there and now participating at EuroHub. It is an actual interesting part of your job and your work at ICMCI. Could you give a few sentences about what is going on at the framework, competency framework?
Let us give Nick one more minute, because then I could close my statement with the closing sentence. Okay. And Nick has 1 minute more time to prepare, but although I know he wouldn't need, but and I wanted to mention that all the institutes who are interested in the 17024 accreditation to lever the acknowledgement, the recognition of their institutes with regards to the CMC certification, please get in touch with Rima, get in touch with Olga, get in touch with me. I'm sure we can explain, we can give some background information for a very, very good service, a very, I don't want to call it cheap, but it's not very hard to get this additional assessment. It's something that is almost coming with the CMC assessments that already have to be done. And I just want to mention it, that there is something which the IMCs should be aware of and could lever the recognition of their services to their members.
Perfect. Thank you.
These are the 3 points I wanted to address, and I give back to you, Jan Willem.
Okay, thank you. Nick, as one of our chairs, your minute, can you do that in a minute?
Yeah, sure, I can. I was desperately trying to find one slide which I could show what's going on, but never mind. We have in the Professional Standards Committee been working over the past 2 years to update our competence framework. And well, in fact, all of the documents surrounding the CMC manual. But the two really important ones have been the framework and the code of conduct. Our work is just about coming to fruition, ready for submission to the board and eventual publication at the annual meeting in October. The new competence framework, the main updates really reflect the change in clients' requirements for consultants in today's business environment. So such things as knowledge, awareness, and use of modern technology, artificial intelligence, and those sort of things. And also in the area of soft skills, of capability and emotional intelligence in relationship building and good communication are two of the main new. Kazema, you're an angel. Yeah, so you see competence framework, and we hope we've simplified it as well. Although there are more items in it, we've tried to simplify the structure. But together with that is the code of conduct, where you see under the heading of behavior. Also, we've updated the code of conduct to include a lot more social and environmental responsibility than there ever was in the previous one. So the new code of conduct talks a lot more about items concerning the UN 17 Sustainable Goals and how consultants should be working in their own organizations and in client organizations to encourage environmental awareness, social awareness, and also the well-being and dealing with diversity in the people they work with. And then, of course, the other leg of our platform of excellence for the future is the ISO 20700. And I wouldn't want to steal any of Robert's thunder from that because he's the guru on 20,700. But just to say that, you know, in 2 years of operation of the ICMCI checklist, we've seen a lot of trainers trained, we've seen a lot of consultants trained, and we're beginning to see a lot of traction around the world for the use of that standard and our checklist. So yeah, enough from me. Those three things are contributing to the excellence and the improved, enhanced reputation of our profession for the future. So thanks, and thank you, Kazema.
Okay, thank you. And back to the big screen again. Thank you, Nick, because it's an excellent expose of what is going on. And for our upcoming event on October 14th, we have to have some discussions about this professional standards, etc. So that will be a very important topic that will be on the agenda then. Thank you, Robert. And I know you have to leave in 20 minutes. Feel free to leave and we'll continue. Any other board director who has an actuality to bring to the floor, since EuroHub is also about communication and learning from each other? No? No? Is there any other chair for one of the committees who wants to take the opportunity to communicate what is going on in his or her committee? No? No?
May I say something?
Yeah, you were last, Rima.
Okay.
I will not correct you.
Thank you.
First the board members, then the committee chairs, and of course, there's always somebody who has to say something, and that is our executive director. Rima,
And
the
that's
floor.
always Rima. It's just two things I want to say. As you know, we celebrated the International Consultants Day, and I noticed that many of you weren't with us. The recordings will be on YouTube and you will get them. Please do listen to that recording. It contains all the updates about the NCI, about the framework, about the 17024, about the consultancy book. So you're going to hear everything there, plus about the Future of Consulting initiative that you may want to be on board with. So please listen to that. The second thing I wanted to say is that we've only got less than 1 month to the closing of the nominations to the Konstantinos International Award. Please do send us if you are interested, if you do have projects, and if you are going to participate. Usually we have many contributions from Europe. This year, I don't like the result yet much. So please, if you're still deliberating that, if you are still discussing it with your boards, do reach a conclusion fast and let us know. That's what I wanted to say, Jan Willem.
Thank you so much, Rima. Any other business from the Bureau? No, that's it. You're doing well? Still, Rima, you're doing well since you celebrated your birthday only a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm
I
1 day
still,
older. I'm not 1 whole year older, so I'm fine.
the only trouble I had was that you are famous all over the world. All the congratulations came from all over the world. It was
Well,
fascinating to see. You were typing all the time. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. So
well,
you're in
colleagues
our
all
hearts.
around the world. Thank
You're
you,
in the
everyone.
hearts and minds of many people around the world, Rima. And thank
Thank
you
you,
so
my
much
dear.
for your work as our executive director. Then I want to start a kind of a roundtable discussion, but we will do that in a plenary session, no breakout rooms or whatever. Just come to the floor, whatever you really want to contribute. I have a list of a lot of countries that are participating, and I do not know whether or not they are here. But from Romania, I see Sorin, but I saw one of your country fellow men as well. What's it like in Romania?
It's raining all day.
No, that's great. But the real question I really want to ask is, how did you cope in the last few months in the IMC in getting all the consultants together in this digital transformation era where you have to use all this kind of stuff? And maybe Ionita can say something about that as well. I don't know. Which of you?
Yeah, it's. I'm going to start, and Gabi, and eventually Angelica or Angela would say something on that. Also, I think that we have been forced to transform ourselves, like everybody else. To be honest, we have more communication than we used to have. I see a lot of participation into the groups and initiatives and joint efforts and working committees, working groups on various teams and so on. The market was never easy in our case. Most probably it's the same story in Bulgaria. I see Gergana and she's smiling to us. But if I'm summing up what happened in the last year and nearly a half, except the fact that I haven't got into a plane for more than 14 months and I realized that the lift force is still functioning, so the physics principles are still okay. I think that we managed quite well as a profession to adapt to what's going on into the market. Not easy, it hurts, but I think that we have did it. The association, I think, is doing quite well for the times, and I'm sure that is going, as Dwight has said at the beginning. I think that these times will force us to joint efforts, even if we are competitors on the day-to-day business. We need from time to time to stay together and try to shape. And this is not an against competition activity, but we have to shape somehow the frame in which the economic activity is happening. So I'm quite not happy. Happy is not the right word for these days, but I'm quite optimistic that we are going ahead. Gabi, if you want to add something, or Angelica, or because Angela is also linked more or less to our association.
Yeah,
I can say hello. I can say a few words on these topics. I think that we all managed to have another type of let's say communication. As you said, Jan, it's digitalization. This is one side with plus and minuses, because if you talk with a client that is an old client, the trust relationship is already built, so you can discuss freely. If it's someone new, it's much more difficult, even if sometimes you say, okay, in 5 minutes I can speak with you, but you cannot build trust on 5 minutes, in my opinion, via Skype or whatever it is. On the other hand, in terms of digitalization, we have experienced the following thing. We have been forced to collect much more information that were previously available on the market, but we never pay so much attention to them, or we pick some information from time to time.
We have been lazy. We were less lazy
indeed.
today.
And now we have been forced to collect and analyze. On the other hand, I can say that we have, let's say, the meanings, but not all the information are variable and not information are available. On the other hand, we are talking about open data, but as we experience in Romania and probably in other countries, it was not such thing that it was a tremendous open of the data, but very few, and sometimes via an algorithm, or they have been not so detailed, but rather in how do I say, summarized information that are not relevant for a detailed assessment. So I think these were the things that we have experienced in Romania with the information digitalization, that it's a good process we have started, but on the background is not so, let's say, significant changes we have expected.
Okay, thank you. Other people from Robert, are you waving or asking? Don't hear you.
Yeah. I'm asking if I can report from Austria. I need to change my hat.
Yeah, okay.
But only if the Romania is set.
Yes, we are finished, let's say.
You are finished? Okay. Thank you so much. Robert, how about Austria? Is it interesting? Normally, you are quite active in Austria with lots of live events and big shows in Vienna, etc. That didn't work last year. How did you cope with that in Austria?
Well, as you mentioned, the live events of course didn't take place, so everything moved to online, and I think that was a little bit mind shift for many of these events, because if you do so many and so big events, you cannot move that all to virtual events. And that's what I wanted to mention, especially is what we moved totally to virtual is the Konstantinos. The Konstantinos Award was only shifted to a television station, and it was a full television show.
A television show. Wow.
Yes. They said, okay, that's a good idea. Let's try it. And they were I don't know if they were seeking for a program or not, but they took it, and it was a full show of over 1 hour. I don't know, 1.5 hours. I don't know, and quite successful. Although it was the first step, and it is different. You need to do many things different as you do it in a live event. And if anybody of you wants to know more details about that, because they also want to move to television show for their Konstantinos Award celebration, I'm sure Alfred would be happy to support.
Okay, is it on YouTube, the Austrian television? No,
I don't know. Most probably. I haven't. I saw it. I've seen it live. I turn on the television.
Of course. Maybe you can find.
And I've seen it live.
You can find a kind of recording for it, because it's an interesting.
Yeah. You're right. That should be. And
I'm very interested in seeing this Austrian television show. Well, it's kind of innovation. I don't think many countries do have a television national broadcast considering their own IMC. That is amazing. Thank you so much, Robert, for getting us into the Austrian adventures. I see Claudio from Italy and Cesara. I saw her, but now...
Cesara is leaving from the meeting. He leaves for the meeting because as a board now.
The board. Claudio, can you tell us how is Italy doing? And is there something new that you experienced that is of interest to all of us?
I send one slide to Kuzaima. Please, Kuzaima, show my slide. Thank you so much. Thank you. This image represents the framework, professional framework in Italy now. In the left, we are the international connection. APCO sure is in ICMCI since 1989. It's 32 years in CMCs, Italian IMCs. And then after in Europe, we are connected with the EQF, European Qualification Framework, since 2008, when it's published in Europe. And then sure, in the standard, in the ISO 2700, the Italian version of standard is a UNI-EN ISO 2700 2018. This is an international part of our professional framework. Sure, in the ICMCI framework, we have put only CMC certification scheme, but also every document, every regulation inside this ICMCI framework. Inside Italy, we are connected by the Ministry of Economic Development. In Italy, the word is MISE, M-I-S-E. With the law, we are from since the 2013, professional law for the other professionals, not traditional professionals, lawyers, medicine, and more. For other professionals, we have this law. In this law, we have a register in the government register for the professional. We are one of the first register, one of the first organization register in the Ministry of Development, Economic Development. And after we are connected with Accredia. Accredia is IAF accreditation in Italy. Is Accredia probably is a second bigger accreditation body in the world, because Italy has many thousand, is the second country in the world for the certification after China. APCO is in Accredia since 2001. It's 20 years. 20 years in Accredia with commission specific for the professional. And then we have the standard. You know our national standard UNI, the historical standard UNI 10771 is we developed now the fourth edition. The first edition is 1999. It's 22 years ago. And probably we are unique national standard with the national standard for the requirement of knowledge, skills, and competencies for the management consultancy. It's not only service. ISO 2700 is service of management consulting, and but in Italy we have from the 2010. There's a standard 11369. Now we have the second edition about the requirements for knowledge, skills, and competencies. This is our framework, our professional framework now. After the pandemic situation in Italy, we start now the situation is improved very good, because every Italian region has in white color. White color is very precious because we restart every kind of activities. Now with the national government, with Mr. Mario Draghi, we have a new big project with the European plan, next generation plan, sure. And this for the professionals is very important to move, to coach the companies, enterprise, and more. This is very good, this moment for us. This year, this is a new era, after pandemic era.
So you're starting all over fresh again then. And, yeah. and a question, Claudio, since this sheet says that the management consulting values, process, and skills of the service, the fourth edition is under development. When that's an interesting thing, since you have the first one in 1999. When will it be finished? Is there, do you know already when it is going to be finished? This
Yes,
year, next year?
More or less, probably in the end of the summer, we finish this standard.
Sorry?
This standard is the evolution of this standard is clear. In the first edition, 1999, is only one national guideline for the management consultant, the first edition. The second edition, 2003, we was presented from Francesco during the EuroHub in Italy in 2006 and translate in English with a disc, if you remember.
Yes, I know.
This national standard is based to launch the project of EN 16114 in 2008, you remember. The third edition, the edition of 2015 of the Italian standard is to guideline for application of EN 16114 in Italy, specific for the Italian market. Now, this edition is value, process, skills of service, and criteria for application in Italy, ISO 27700. This is a scope of the standard.
I'm really interested in if you finish that, what can be of help to ICMCI. Thank you so much, Claudio, for your interesting contribution.
Thank you.
And Kuzam, if we switch back to the big screen again, yeah, there we are. For instance, I see a lot of other people from different countries. Peter, what's happening in Hungary? How are you doing there with all of your friends in your IMC? And are there any great ideas that popped up in the Hungarian way of dealing with this pandemic?
Well, let's not talk about the special Hungarian ways of dealing with things, because that would involve bringing up the name of the Prime Minister, which I would like to avoid for the sake of Jan Willem. But actually business is back to normal in this country, except for the tourism industry, of course. Which is quite a big hit, because we're talking about a country where 17% of the GDP comes from tourism and related industries. So that was a big hit on the economy. But otherwise, everything is back. Even some of my clients who used to have all their meetings with parallel with the online and offline with the same board meetings and management meetings, now they shut down the conference projectors and the cameras in their conference rooms. So I actually have to be there, which takes a lot of time now. I'm realizing that how good this pandemic period was, that I saved a lot of time by not traveling to clients, just clicking a few buttons. Well, in terms of the economy, I think we've done quite well. That we can't say the same about the healthcare system, but we seem to be over it. In terms of the profession, we've got other problems. So we don't have the pandemic problem. We have other problems which are mostly related to how the country is being run. Which well, we'll see. We have elections next year, so. We'll see what happens.
We'll keep an eye on that one.
Thank you. I'm expecting your support.
Of course.
I know I can count on you. As far as the institute is concerned, we've just had new elections. So we the new board was new president, new board was just announced today. So the new or the perhaps the adjustments to strategy are yet to be seen, but I think we'll stay on track and try to develop in terms of the profession in this country.
Okay. Well, it's rather good news that it's going back to normal again, except for the traveling then. And I hope the mix of traveling and digital transformed meetings will be in place in the times to come also in Hungary.
Well, actually, locals. I mean, the Hungarians tend to travel a lot. It's just we don't see tourists
Oh no,
anymore.
I do understand.
Yeah, which
We do not
is
have many tourists
I love every friend who's visiting the city, but actually it's a big relief in Budapest not to have as many tourists in the city as local population, which is the normal summertime. So it's kind of mixed emotions, because I'm of course missing all the visitors, but I'm not missing them from the streets. So
yeah. I know, I live very nearby Amsterdam, and Amsterdam, which is a kind of famous city all over the world,
yeah,
was kind of a museum city style. No person in it, only buildings. It was amazing, and normally flocks of tourists overall. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
I do have a list of all participating countries, so I'll try to figure out whether or not a participant or a delegate is available. Ukraine? Ukraine? No, not yet. Moldova? It was on my country list. No, no Moldova. Albania? No, no Albania. Finland it is. I know for sure. Kim, where are you? Kim.
Kim left as well. No, he's there.
I'm here. I just have the problem to find the right buttons.
The right buttons. That's difficult.
Yeah, because they are on the left.
How is the IMC doing in Finland? How are your consultants doing in these modern times?
We are doing fine, actually. The institute is doing fine. We have a little bit the same situation as Hungary. So we have had the new election of the board in the institute. The chair is the same, but we have new board members, and that has increased the activities on, or the ideas of training and coaching, because there are training and coaching board members now as well. So that will be interesting. The virtual meetings have been a blessing for us. We are a big country with long distances, so it's easier to get participators into the meetings when they don't have to travel. So we have had a lot of more activities, more participants in the meetings. So that works fine. We have started, I'm not in the board, I'm just the honorary chair of the institute and the chair of the ethical committee, nothing else there. But we have started a LJK Academy, where we have monthly trainings for consultants, how to sell consulting services, and what kind of contracts and what kind of toolboxes consultants should have, and so on.
And it is started in this era.
Yes.
And it works.
Yeah, it works. We have, as said, we have quite a lot of, for some of the meetings or the trainings we have, it's always free for the members. But sometimes it's free also for other consultants. Sometimes we take a small fee, depending a little bit of the topic.
Yeah. Is it available in English or just Finnish?
Finnish.
Ah.
Our institute works in Finnish. I think we have a small web page in English somewhere on the web, but Finnish is the language we speak. So.
Okay, but it's an interesting part. If an IMC has its own academy for training purposes to learn the consultancy issues, since we have lots of discussion in my country whether or not it will help us or not to do a kind of stuff like this. So it's very interesting for all of us in the EuroHub, probably, Kim, that you keep us posted. And I really want to learn if we can come together next year to learn what the results are from the first students at the academy. That would be an interesting case.
Let's see what happens. Yeah, then there is a library group and so on. So we have consultants who have some books they want to recommend, and then they have presentation on some books, and that's an opportunity to participate as well.
Thank you so much.
In that kind of groups. Then I would have one question. I was participating, as you know, I'm talking about ethics. In my opinion, the strength of the profession is the strength of its ethics. Yeah. So I participated. IMC USA had a roundtable discussion about ethics last week. I was listening to that, and one of the discussions there was the contract between the consultant and the client. Yeah. The importance of having a good contract. I don't know, Konstantinos is here, so do you have, or perhaps Rima knows, if IMC USA have any accredited ISO trainers?
Because I don't know, it's a question to Konstantinos.
Because isn't because it not okay because Nick, isn't it so that one of the basics in the ISO training is the content of the contract?
Yeah.
But first, to be on a positive note, actually, Greg is talking to us about a training for the US on the ISO to get them accredited to provide it to their members. So we are in the process, Kim.
Okay, that's good, because it was a big issue on top of the ethics. Actually, it was quite interesting to see that they felt that a good contract is the basis for the good ethics, the good ethical behavior of the consultant with the client.
Very good question, Kim. And Konstantinos, since you're the next on my list, you're also a Greek person. But first, this question, what Kim put to the floor. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? It was quite pleased with what happened at the hub in the Americas.
Now, as Rima mentioned regarding the ISO 27700, there is discussion now because we had members here and there, but not, a critical mass yet, that showed some interest regarding the ISO 2700 checklist, etc. So we will be exploring and most probably moving forward to creating a specific, initiative for such a purpose.
Okay, thank you. And then returning to your home country, other home country, Greece. Yeah, it was kind of an example in the lecture we already had earlier this afternoon. But how about Greece? How is everybody doing in Greece? Can you and maybe there is some interesting new stuff in Greece, because you make plans that are very well welcomed in the European Committee, as I learned earlier this day.
Oh yes, that was a compliment. It seems that our government is, doing the right things forward, trying to, combat the pandemic, participating in a lot of initiatives, especially with the so-called digital passport for traveling in Europe. This digitized COVID passport, COVID-free passport. Yeah. And then with the European funds, the Recovery Resilience Fund, being one of the first nations to actually submit a full-blown plan, which actually not only takes advantage of EU funds, but also allows and permits and obliges that banks also finance, and there's a portion regarding equity so that subsidized funds do not go, down the drain. Regarding the situation economically, the economy has gone through, a blast, as in most countries, and it's gradually picking up. Functions are opening up. So we're kind of free to move right now, but with precautions, etc. And the economy has still a long way to go, because even
also in
with
the
regard
consultancy
to,
branch.
I'm sorry.
Also in the consultancy branch.
Yes, because apart from the big four, so to speak, the big consultancies mainly catered and are catering to government work and public sector work, so they had business, and to large clients.
Yeah.
But the mid-sized consulting firms, I think they took a crash, so to speak.
A major blow.
Yes, because of the SMEs and small enterprises, they're actually faced a lot of problems, especially liquidity issues and survival issues and operational issues, etc. So it has not been easy even for the profession. And last but not least, it's in the DNA of entrepreneurs in my country that they don't listen to advisors very easily. So you have to come up, with something very innovative to, be able to persuade them to move forward and start putting in.
Listen to you. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Konstantinos, about your update about Greece. On my list there's also the Emirates. Somebody from the Emirates. I'm looking in my screen.
Dr. Tarek did not join us. No, he's not in the room.
He's not there?
No.
And Lebanon in my screen, looking. No?
That's Rami Saad, who's with us, but I'm not sure if
Rami
he's fully with us.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Rami? No. Rami? No. Then I'll move to the Netherlands. Theo.
Hold on. Rami just answered in the chat. Yes, sir. Well, Rami, I believe Jan Willem wants you to actually start talking to us and tell us how things are in Lebanon, if you're able.
Yeah. Rami, if you are able to join. I'm asking you to unmute. So no, he can't. No, he's telling in the chat he can't talk right now. Rima, sent him a reply that that's a pity, because we really wanted to learn what was happening in Lebanon. And well, we should have gone there, and then all things happened in Lebanon. So all the best of luck for the people, our colleague consultants in Lebanon, I would say. Then the Netherlands. Some of you already are familiar with one of my board members in the IMC, the Netherlands, Theo, a very young and energetic guy, and he apologizes because he can't be present here. So I have to tell something about what is happening in the Netherlands. What is interesting is that the IMC Netherlands, I'm not the board director, or not the board chair anymore. So I left the board, but of course we have still very good contact. The new board has set up a client journey, and 1,500 consultants participated in a journey like that, to understand what the needs are for consultants, what they really want from the IMC in the future times. What I already started as a chair was discussing about the budget we had. And there was this big issue that we spent about 40% of our budget for a journal, and a journal that everybody could get a free copy of. But it was very, very costly. So we started first to say to the editor, well, in earlier days, there were many people who got that journal out of our IMC. But now it's only the members of our IMC who are participating and are paying lots of money to you to get the journal, which was a very good journal. Then they switched it last year to a quarterly magazine on the internet. So the costs were cut in half. And now an arrangement was made with another big editorial firm to take over the journal. So the costs for us in the Netherlands were quite diminished. And that was a great help in this pandemic era and reinforcing our IMC. Because of that fact, that 40% of the budget was now available again for doing things our members of the IMC really wanted. One of the interesting things that we did, we have a kind of professional affiliateship where you can train and go to conferences, and you pay one big amount for a full year of extra stuff that you can go to if you are a member of our IMC. And we said, since we really think that being a member and being as a professional, being trained and skilled, etc., 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 we will bring down the cost of that extra contribution back to zero. So everybody got it now for free, and hopefully, this is a secret, the board hopes not everybody is going to participate, because then it will be very costly again. But now we think that since we could make it free for all, we could really invest in contributing to the profession in my country. And since the journal now is a free electronic copy, it saved a lot of costs. That is a very interesting thing I really wanted to share with you, because this professional, how do you say it, abonnements? If you are a member and you have an extra on it, well, I don't know the English word for it, but if you have just one tariff for every member, which is the same, and everybody can participate in everything, it is just wonderful. So a lot of good responses came to this strategic differentiation from where we came from. And we really got some new members aboard. So there's an upswing in the total numbers, just a small, but it is there, a small upswing of contributing members. And it is something I really want to tell you about what is happening in the Netherlands. Which brings me to Serbia. No Serbia?
Yes, actually, we have Alexandra Hristov
yeah.
and we have
I saw
Andrea
her.
Jensel. Both are Serbia.
Yeah.
So if any are
Alexandra,
interested to update.
if you could say some words. That was my iPhone, which was telling me what to do, and I'm not listening to it. I'm listening only to Rima. She's my boss, kind of. No, Alexandra, I saw you flashing on the screen. No. Okay. Maybe later on then. Bulgaria. At least I see Gergana. Any other people from Bulgaria?
Yes, we have one colleague, Andrei, if Andrei could join as well. We haven't discussed what we will be talking, but maybe I will start and Andrei can maybe...
As a stand-in, go ahead.
Yes, okay. It was very interesting to listen to what other countries have been doing. Bulgaria, overall, the environment is difficult because, again, we have a caretaker government. We had elections, the parties couldn't form a government, so now we have another round of elections. So the overall environment is not positive, and we cannot even think of having the government as a client for consulting services overall. Bulgaria has not presented their national plan for a recovery plan. By the way, Netherlands either. So the two countries have not presented their plan. So in terms of overall conditions, it's the pandemic has calmed down the situation, but overall the business is not maybe developing as we hope to. In terms of our members in the association, it's quite a diverse experience. We have a few cases where people are looking for a job because they couldn't adapt to the new environment. Maybe their services have become obsolete very quickly. So now they're thinking of whether some of them already joined companies, others are thinking on a crossroad what to do. But on the other side, there are others, mainly who deal with information technologies, who are growing. Why? Not because they work in Bulgaria, but because their business model is to find a market whenever they can in the world. So one of our priorities is how to make more of the consultants, of the members, to become more exportable, what kind of skills, knowledge they need to have in order to facilitate or help them to grow internationally. So this is one of the new areas which we work on. In terms of internal kind of relationships, I think we had a very good, from that perspective, good last year, because we got together very close through these digital forms of communication. We had a lot of exchange of information on kind of ongoing basis, what's going on, but a lot of also from consultants to consultants training, which I think has exhausted now. And I think our members expect to offer them a different experience, something which will be more sophisticated maybe. This is why I'm very much looking forward to see what Nick Won will come with the new competency framework. I think we need to talk around what does it mean to be what does it ethics mean in nowadays and in the future? Not sure whether a good contract is enough if you don't have the proper relationships and how you build the relationships. I was very interested to see the whole framework in complicated or maybe rich, well-developed framework in Italy. And I still believe, listening and preparing also myself for today's discussion, I had to read a lot to update myself because things are going very, very quickly. I think we have tremendous opportunity to do something on a regional basis or to cooperate between the practices. So we would also benefit from these funds and from these opportunities. This is not all about clients, it is all businesses. So we could maybe also use and leverage on what we already have and come up with an idea of what we could do for the profession more.
Gergana, is there in your country now any experience with what you're suggesting? Is there any example that you can provide us with?
I'm more looking for others to look for good examples where we could learn and maybe do something together. As you know, Jan William, we applied and our association was accepted by the European Union. We are a member now of this Pact for Skills. So in terms of how you improve digital skills, I mean, what does it mean for consultants? Could we do something more together? I mean, it could be not only between the European countries, but you know, all countries worldwide. And instead of waiting, you mentioned something, let us see what the results will be in 1 year. I would love to know even now. So how we could learn, even if we need to pay for that, I would consider doing that. But have all these ideas and try to implement them and you know, build on that now, not wait 1 year to see others what they're doing. I think
no. Don't misunderstand me. For instance, what Kim told us, I said if the graduates come after a year and they come in a live meeting to tell what happened to them, that would be nice.
Yeah, as you know, with the future of shaping the future of consulting, even that within this framework for 1 month, we changed our ambition. We started originally the idea with future of consulting. Now it is shaping the future of consulting. So the new standards and skills and how we can shape and own the space, as some colleagues have shared, is something which I think is a good opportunity for us, and we should be working in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Gergana. Thank you so much.
To
Okay.
invite everyone who has an idea, wants to participate in this initiative, please do that through RIMA or contacting me, so we would really work on the future. I don't know whether my colleague Andrei wants to add something. I see, maybe. Oh, okay. Bye.
How about Bulgaria? I can't hear you yet. I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, although the sign doesn't say or not.
Andrei, yeah? No. Your mic, you can hear us clearly.
No? How is now?
There you are. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Sorry. I just want to add few words, maybe, because after Gergana's statement, it's difficult to add anything significant. I think just to stress on some points concerning COVID situation. Some difficulties I saw in the overall consultancy business was that some programs were created that directly supported companies with working capital, for example, salaries, etc. On the other hand, other high value added programs for innovations, for energy efficiency, resource efficiency, for example, were underfunded, and most of them stopped. This was not so good idea, in my opinion. But now situation is going better. I mean, Gergana already mentioned that we'll have general elections after 1 month, in 11th of July.
So we have only a hope that the situation will become better.
Yeah, I have a hope that the situation will become better. But all administration technically is working, and I don't think that there will be any difficulties on this. We are currently working very actively on topics such Green Deal and Just Transition Fund, covering many aspects of this European policy. Now we are at the stage of analysis of the environment and potential support measures. So I'm an optimist, actually, especially for Bulgarian market.
That is a great.
By the World Bank, not by the Bulgarian government, but anyway.
Bulgarian government pays, actually. Yeah, the project.
But the idea, Andrei, that you are an optimist is a very good closure of your statement.
Yes.
Keep up the good work in Bulgaria, then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Turkey. I do. Rima could no. He was.
I don't see anyone from Turkey. It was supposed to be Zainab, but she's not with us.
Then I have a message from Rami in the chat. He wrote something about his experiences in Kuwait and going back to Lebanon. So if you have a look in the chat, you can see what Rami has to tell us. And then on my list, I have the UK. I know Nick Warren because I have him just in my face. Do not know if there is any other IMC members from UK are there. No. Then Nick, it's up to you.
Oh yeah,
UK.
And Willem, you know I'm always in your face.
How is the IMC doing?
Well, listen, nationally, despite all the predictions of disaster since we left the EU, we've not sunk into the sea. Our economy has not fallen apart. but COVID has had quite a serious effect. However, we do appear to be beginning to see an upswing and recovery overall. So while our politicians keep playing games with each other, business is just getting on with business as usual. As far as the profession is concerned here, yeah, I mean, the big consultancies are still very comfortable, taking a lot of work from the government with measured measures of success or otherwise. The smaller consultancies, there have been some losses of some of the smaller consultancies. But again, you are beginning to see more activity in consultancy. Our institute, as many of you know, we have a parent institute, the Chartered Management Institute in the UK. We have, as an institute of consulting, and benefited lately from much enhanced support from our parent, which has led to an upsurge in support and a lot of interest now in our online webinars and seminars, and also in, same as you were talking about, Jan Willem, our online publications, which are getting a really good level of opens and click-throughs. And we are in the process of radically restructuring our institute in the UK to meet the different demands, particularly of younger consultants now. So I think we'll probably have some exciting news later on in the year as all that development work comes to fruition.
Okay, that seems a little bit on the parallel with what is happening in the Netherlands now.
Yeah.
Since, we are building up a big youth component in the IMC, etc. So I'm very pleased if I could learn a little bit more about what is happening in the UK. So if there are any messages to members in the IMC UK, which are able for us to learn from, that would be of help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting. We unfortunately we are just about to hear our Prime Minister announce that we are not moving any further out of lockdown at the moment.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's,
I don't know what effect that will have, but there you go.
That's a complicating issue. I know for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
you have,
I mean, we'd be very happy to share the experience as we go through, you know, the development that we're working on, I think.
Would be very nice. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome.
Then I have had all the countries on my list. Is there any country in Europe that I didn't mention who is participating and says, hey, this EuroHub chair doesn't see that I'm here? Anybody? No? Then I had 16 countries. And of course, since this is a EuroHub, where one of the big issues is sharing and building up a community of people and learning from each other, I give the floor also to our non-European colleagues. If there is something you want to bring on the table, feel free. If you are from Asia or from the Americas, I don't mind. We're Europe. We're open-minded. If there's anything you want to share with us, feel free.
I would like to share. But would Joe like to share first? Joe, you want to go first because it's getting very late for him.
Okay.
Let Joe go first. I'm after him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Up to you.
First of all, I have one question. This is about 2 or 3 months ago, we had American Hub meeting. Total attendee was about 30. And also today, attendee is also about 30. But Asian Pacific Hub meeting was held about 1 week ago. Total attendee was over 50. Do you understand?
Yeah. And what's the
Why
question?
so many attend? AP Hub, but Americans and also Europeans are not so many. This is my first question.
That is something I can answer, since as a EuroHub, what you did, what I liked is what Lydia told us. It's about a kind of conference as well, and this is the focus in the EuroHub and the Americas Hub was more on the community itself. So the people who are participating just before we are going into the should-be conference and general meeting in the autumn time, you do it twice, which is I do have kind of envy, because you are participants for the conference part of the Asia Pacific Hub as well. That is something we didn't do yet in EuroHub or in the Americas Hub. So you're maybe up ahead of us already. We'll have to discuss that, what the kind of character is of the different hubs. One of the issues at the hubs is what we did, annual meeting preparation, exchange of ideas for the general meeting in autumn time on October 14th. So we listen very carefully to what is happening in the different parts of the world, and we bring it to the table on the board. And then we compose an agenda for everybody all around the world to come together at a general meeting in October 14th. That's basically the idea, Joe. Yeah?
But congratulations for European Hub meeting, because so many countries come from. It's very good conditions. So many countries, about 20 countries come together. It is very important to communicate each other. Congratulations, Jan.
Thank you so
and
much.
And also all European members.
It's a compliment to all of us, since so many of you are actively participating in this EuroHub. It's not a board thing or whatever. It's something delegates, what delegates can do for themselves. And I'm just facilitating it. And thank you for the compliment to all of us. Lydia, thank you, Joe. Lydia.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm delighted to be here because I always feel I represent Asia, all right? And I like to have a voice too on that basis. Okay, I will talk about IMC Singapore, and I'll talk at two levels. One at the IMC Singapore level first. I think we had, put it this way, we were all in the same storm, but we were all in different boats, all right? And the pandemic actually has brought out the best in us. We had to reset, refocus, rewire, reimagine. So in the dark clouds, we have actually emerged and achieved more. I tell you how we have achieved more. Now, we have, I try to summarize it. One, some of critical success factors are have strategic partners, all right? So we go into the industry and we are very excited of partnering professional association, all right? So the associations, what we're talking about could be the Institute of Human Resource, the Institute of Productivity, the Institute of the different professional bodies. And we were very focused, we targeted to expand our ecosystem up to more than 50 professional bodies, all right? But then having selected more than 50 professional bodies, we cannot manage all. So we are very we target one by one. So as a result of that, as a result of having the strategic partner, we were able to conduct monthly or even twice a month consultant courses, all right? And the consultant courses actually generated a lot of money for us. To be honest, since the pandemic, last year, 2020, it was our record year. Can you imagine? We actually trained the largest number of consultants in the whole history of IMCS. Why? Is because partly there's also another contributing factor. The other contributing factor is because I think Dwight knows about this. I mentioned that in the past. We have created a 2-level consultants. We have the CMC, which is actually we consider the premium class of consultant, all right? The branded class of consultant, and not because we need 3,600 hours, a lot of consultants can't make it. So we create another level, which comes back to young William's point about young consultants. So we created these younger consultants so that they can be a consultant with 1,000 hours, all right? CMC is 3,600 hours. We call them registered management consultant. Then we convince our government to say, hey, look here, recognize our consultants, give them funding. So the long and short is this. During the pandemic, our government recognized consultants trained by IMC Singapore. And it's not only that, they gave, because there was a great craze for, everybody has to worry about the digital urgency, all right, to move their business forward. So as a result, the government has said, okay, if you give, if your consultants recognized by us, go out and serve the SME, they can get funding up to 80 to 90% funding. Can you imagine? So if there's a consulting work for 10,000 US, the funding from the government can be 8,000, but they need a consultant who can act as a project manager. That's why we were in great demand. Everybody wants to be trained. That's how we were able to generate. We are honestly financially, I would say, very sound because of
that's a very interesting example you give, Lydia.
Right.
And maybe, if I may ask, is it on your website, IMC Singapore?
Yes. We have on our website, we have 2 categories. You can go have our website. No, you can just see www.imcs.sg. All right? Okay. imcs.sg. We have 2 levels of consultancy, CMC and RMC. RMC stands for Registered Management Consultant. So the RMC attract the younger people to come in so that we use the RMC as a platform to become CMC too. So it's a 2-tier management consultancy. But the most critical thing is to convince your government, look here, Singapore needs consultants to help all the SMEs, recognize them, give them funding. We have a lot of dialogue. As I have been president of IMC this is my 6th year, but I intend to pass my baton at the end of December to somewhere else because I can't keep on holding the position. But in 19, we started very early. We have a lot of dialogue with our Singapore government and say, please help the consultants, let them be recognized and give them funding. So I think if you can, in your own country, persuade your government to give you funding, it will generate a lot of business for you because you have to keep on training consultants, and we are training like twice a month. We keep on having so much interest. And then
Lydia, I'm going to interrupt you. You made your point and you made it very clear. The only comment I have still is that we had this EU recovery plan issue For us, EU and countries, that's more complicated than in your country, for instance, where the government has a different connection with consultants, for instance. So you have to, I think
Yeah,
it's a
possibly.
wonderful example you give, that in establishing a good relationship with governments all over the world, that can bring our profession forward. So that is of great interest. And that's an interesting news part you gave as well, that you will step down as chair for IMC Singapore at the end of this year.
After 6 years.
But thanks a lot about your contribution, and it's really interesting to visit your website and see what is going on there.
Yes, please visit our website. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lydia.
Welcome.
Konstantinos from the Americas. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure. For and on behalf of our national board and our members, I'd like to thank you for hosting us and such great hospitality in the EuroHub. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here, not only to be observing, but also to be exchanging ideas as well. So I'd like to tell you very briefly about IMC USA so that we all be on the same page. We participated during chair's updates and briefly updated Dwight on a monthly basis, our ICMCI chair. We also participated in the Americas Hub. And the gist of all this is that even though we've been in a fragile situation and we've been hit, during the pandemic, this gave an opportunity, this is the bright side, gave an opportunity for increased and augmented camaraderie between members and between chapters in our institute as well. That's one thing. Another thing is that we're on a rebound mode, so to speak, even though it's fragile. We're shooting optimistically to surpass the 1,000 mark regarding membership in a year, by next year. And in order to do this, one of the tools and weapons, so to speak, would be to come up with a revamped website. This will be up and running in probably a month or two at the most. And then regarding our academy, utilize a learning management system as well. So provide more benefits and shoot for more initiatives regarding our membership and providing additional value. That's it. Thank you.
Perfect, Konstantinos. Thank you so much. Any other people who want to contribute? No? Then I'm going to finish this meeting. Dwight, I give you the opportunity to say some last remarks at the end of the meeting to finish it really off. Now, Konstantinos and Lydia, what you learned in addressing us is that it is of great importance to look all over the world and get in, since we are digitalized now, you can see the websites of all other IMCs as well, to be inspired and to learn from each other. That is basically the idea of having hubs as well. Creating a community, and I said it already earlier, is of great importance. And to me, it was just fun to be a facilitator as a EuroHub chair, where so many people had the opportunity to take the mic, not to take the floor, but to take the mic and to express themselves, which I liked very much. And Konstantinos, you mentioned a word there, which is a word that I'm very fond of: camaraderie. In Dutch, it is camaraderie. So it's all the same. I'm still a lieutenant colonel in the Dutch Royal Army, and this is the word we like best: camaraderie. Being together in a community with like-minded people all over the world, different cultures, but like-minded in this profession. And that is the importance of having hubs like this, which is very helpful for me as a Dutchman, but hopefully for all of us from the perspective of their own country and culture. So I really want to thank you all for joining this EuroHub. My last remark is that this is my last EuroHub as chair. I will participate next year, but not as a chair. And tomorrow in the board, we will discuss it. So if anyone has bright ideas about this succession issue, just speak out to Dwight. That would be of help. I'm finishing it as my role is ending now, and I give Dwight the opportunity to say some final words.
Thank you very much, Jan Willem. I'm not sure what I can add. I think your final words were very inspirational. You've caught the heart of what the hub meetings are all about, and our profession really is, about the growth of the profession. How do we collaborate together to ensure that we are best of the best in terms of the kinds of services that we can provide to our clients? And how do we convince those who are new to the industry that they should be professional management consultants? So we have to tease apart this, print the business card, I am a consultant, versus the professional management consultant that is invested in training in ISO 20700 and gets their certified management consultant accreditation and so on. So it's events like these that really give me optimism for the way that we can grow our profession. I know we can. I'm optimistic, but we have some hard work ahead of us, and I know that all of us are colleagues, and I love your word, comrades, in terms of how we can get this job done. So thank you very much, Jan Willem.
Okay, thank you, Dwight. And to all of you, see you hopefully October 14th, and hopefully in 2022 in real life. Thank you so much for participating. We're on time. Good luck. Have a nice, pleasant evening, a night, or a full day ahead of you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.